I want to piggyback off the video we made earlier about the difference between tempting and testing. God being holy, constantly trying to reprove us of sin. God would never, as the Bible says in the verse of the day we did, God cannot be tempted of evil, nor would he tempt us with evil. That works against his own idea of getting us saved. He is constantly trying to reprove us of evil. He would never test us with evil or tempt us with evil. When God tempts, people think, well, when he's really testing, people think he's tempting you, but he's not. It's just like the F word that I said there's a difference. God's F word is faith. Satan's F word is fear. Satan is the opposite of God. But God said he created evil. Because we do know that the word says there is nothing that has been made that we currently know of that has not been made by God. He created everything, all things, evil. I've said this before. It is not a separate entity of God. There is no other God but God. And he makes that plain here in Isaiah 45:7 when we talk about temptation and testing. Satan tempts you with sin, the allure and the lust of it, because he is perdition. He is sin. But he's the created being, not the creator. God is the creator of the universe. There is no... Let's get into this. Let me show you what I'm saying. So let's go 45:7. I formed the light and created darkness. Hear what he say now, people. This is what, again, I keep telling folk, you're putting God in the box. You better cut it out. He says, I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. You think that's a conspiracy? Let's open it up. I've covered this one on video multiple times. Okay. And what he does before you get to verse 7, he sets it up to let you know. Go to verse 5. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded you, though you have not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west, and there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Those two verses, 5 and 6, he sets that up and says it to say this. Where you think that evil is its own entity, that all these other things that are happening in the world are happening without God's permission, that is highly incorrect. He says, now after 5 and 6, he says, I form the light and I create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. There's no argument with that. That's hard for people to believe based on this rotten theology that has been taught in the church through many unfit leaders. They would tell you that. Well, God never created evil. Where do you think evil come from? He said, I create evil. There is no mistaking about that. He said, I created the light. God hung the sun, moon, and the stars. He formed. He made. He's the creator. You think that one thing, evil, is not created by him? That's here's the thing. This goes in line with what I'm trying to say, because it's a misunderstanding, and we put God in the box all the time, and we talk about what he is and can't do. The Bible said there is nothing too hard for God to do. Okay? If he says I created evil, but why would he create evil? gonna tell you, it's as simple as free will. When you are not obedient to God, you are disobedient. Then when you are disobedient, and then you go away from his will and his way, you're going the opposite way of holiness. Because of free will, evil was created as a form of punishment for those who have not accepted the ring of holiness and living righteousness. The punishment is evil. What is the punishment for committing sin? Death. So for those, and I said this before, he didn't create us as robots to automatically serve him. Deuteronomy 30:19 is clear. I'm going to keep saying that. He gave you a choice. You can cling to life, which is through Christ, or you can cling to death, which is the works of sin and iniquity and transgression. And people will choose death because of the flesh and how Satan has made it look so attractive and normal and just the best thing since sliced bread. But the opposite of God is unrighteousness. The opposite of God is unholiness. Evil was created as a form of punishment for the disobedient. And that is the age-old question. When it started with Lucifer in heaven, pride was found in him because he wanted to be like God. He wanted to be worshipped as God. And he gave free will, obviously, to the angels as well, because Satan would have had to have free will to be able to think for himself and say, well, you know what? I want to be like. I want to be praised like. So their sin could not, and rebellion could not stay in the kingdom of heaven. It had to be dismissed. It had to be put out. And that sin and rebellion smacked the earth. First people that were tested was Adam and Eve, and they failed. God is of holiness. If he's trying to reprove us of sin and iniquity and transgression, he's not going to tempt you with something he's trying to reprove you of. Satan tempts. Satan doesn't test. He tempts you. God tests you. He's testing you to build your faith. He's not tempting you to tear your faith down with sin, lust, and transgression against what his commandments are. Ladies and gentlemen, he says he created all things. He even created evil. And that's hard for people to understand. Notice number 8 say, we're in Isaiah 45. The meat was Isaiah 45:7. It says, drop down, ye heavens, from above, and let the skies pour down righteousness. Let the earth open, and let it bring forth salvation. So, two things you can look at that as. Righteousness, you look at the rain as righteousness, which feeds the earth and keep the earth green, and seeds are watered in the natural, which bring forth the bud of the earth, the newness, right? Isaiah 61. But spiritually, righteousness came down in the form of Christ. He went down as a dead seed. God watered that seed, brought him back to life in another form. You put a seed in the ground and it's watered, it grows and sprouts out a different form. This is the manifesto of God and how creation of life works. Christ came down from heaven, went into the earth, just like a seed does when you plant in your backyard. God watered it with newness of life. Christ rose with all glory. The same way your plants and veggies go down as a seed, you water them, then they spring up because of God as the life of the earth. And this principle works with everything we put our hand to. That seed comes up in a different form. And everybody that eats off of that seed is nourishment, because if you're planting food, okay, that food is for nourishment. Jesus came up as nourishment for the world, those that would come to him and accept him as their Lord and Savior. There is an eternal nourishment there, that God said, once they drink from me, they would never thirst. Once they eat of me, they would never go hungry again. It's the same principle, but in the spiritual realm, there is an edification there that the natural can't do. Okay? So, let me make that plain, okay? So, just to show you again, let's go and find where God says there was nothing created that's created, okay? And these are the things that, am I running out of time? Okay, hold on. All right, guys, so let's get back into this. I'm on a break, so I got to watch my time. Let's get back to what was created, okay? Colossians 1:16, for by him were all things created. So if all things, what does that leave out? Nothing. I just showed you in Isaiah 45:7, God said he created evil. He created the light. He created peace. He created all things that are in heaven and that are in earth. All things. What did he create? All things in heaven and in earth. So, where some people might agree, oh, he didn't create evil, he created darkness. What do you think evil is? Evil is darkness. But darkness is also, out of darkness can come good as well. Nobody wants to go to sleep with all the lights on in the house. You need it to be dark so you can rest. But at the same time, God says, I created all things. This is not it's not a conspiracy. All things that are in heaven and all things that are earth, visible and invisible. Whew. My. This covers the whole gambit. So there's no excuse to say what God didn't do and what he can't do. And he would never create that. Nuh-uh. So when we say all things, again, what does that leave out? Nothing. He created all things in heaven, all things in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. I'm going to let you chew on that for a minute. Because if you don't know your word, you don't know your scriptures, you will say, I'm here to educate you. All things, visible and invisible. You think these little UFO things running around that's being caught on camera more and more now, you think that's a separate entity from God, that somebody else created that outside of God? Then you are sadly mistaken. Now, things can be created by God, but with evil intent, it can be used for other purposes. But nothing else created that but God. So so you say, well, God couldn't, why would he? I'm reading it to you. What's the point of all things being created by him? Because it's for him. Now, when we get there, we can say, hey, Lord, why would you create how? If that's what you think you want to ask him, and see if you get an answer. Revelation 4:11. You are worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for you have created all things, And for your pleasure, they are and were created. All things. All things. How many is left out of all? 0. He created all things. Well, he didn't create my car. He created all things came from him. The knowledge to create came from him and invested that in man. Satan also has a creativity. He knows certain things. But even his knowledge comes from the Creator. Comes from the Most High Yah. He uses that creativity. He uses that knowledge for evil, though. This is why God is not surprised by nothing's going on this earth. We are. And we're only surprised by it because we cannot manifest the idea that God is in control of all of it and he created all of it. I'm reading you the word. So don't step out there in front of that bullet in the comment section and say, Please don't do that when I'm reading it to you verbatim. So God is not going to tempt man with sin. He's going to test man to reprove us of evil. That was what the test was for the children of Israel, walking through the wilderness for 40 years, to reprove them, to work out the contaminated blood of evil. When God tests us, it's to reprove, not to tempt you with sin, something that he wants to reprove and rebuke in your life. He's not going to, no. Satan tempts. He is not a creator. He is a destroyer. He can only make things look a certain way. But he is a created being just like me and you. Let's get that understood, folks, before we go off and start talking crazy. And then I'm showing you the word. All things were created by him and for him. And didn't I read where it says, for your pleasure, they were created for his pleasure and for his will to be done. So again, the next time you go off and curse a thing that you think is evil, meditate on the situation and make sure God did not send it to you. Because if he sent it to you, and it goes against your narrative, we all will quick to say the devil. I used to hear fools say in church, the devil stopped me from coming to church this morning. I almost didn't make it. No, that ain't what it was. Stop giving him so much credit. You was just lazy and didn't feel like getting up. Tell the truth and shame the devil. First thing we lean on, the devil did it. Boy. My. All right, guys, you be blessed and be well. I want you to meditate on this because here come the train again. Good Lord Almighty. And let's let it get its horn in there. Whether I'm at work or at home, I can't escape these trains. I think it's done. No more horns. Okay, I think we're done. Like, comment, subscribe, and share, folks. While we're yet waiting on the harvest, we're looking in the mirror, working on ourselves on a daily basis. Peace.